Good evening, everyone. This is the October 4th meeting of the Joliet City Council. Mayor Ocober presiding. We will have Councilman Larry Hug do the invocation, and then he will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Councilman Hug, before you start, I got a phone call from Brother Ed Basich, our counsel for the Joliet Fire Department, and he wanted everyone to know that he is on the way to recovery, that his bone marrow biopsy was negative, and he's being transferred to rehab, and he would like to be in our thoughts and our prayers this evening, but he's very happy to be on the road to recovery and sends blessings to everyone.
Good news. Brother Ed, right?
Brother Ed Basich, yes.
Right. So all of us, let's keep Brother Ed's speedy recovery and complete recovery in our thoughts and in our prayers. Tonight there was to be an individual who couldn't make it to deliver, a pastor, Lonnie Posley, a friend of mine. So you're all kind of stuck with me. We're going through some trying times, and both as a council and more importantly as a community at large, it's really a time to come together. And we see that from time to time, but then yet and other times we see the divisions broaden. And we need to overcome that if we're going to have any hope of making it through these difficult times and beyond over the next several years, landing on a more positive place as a community. And I ask that the good Lord, Jesus Christ, look down on this council and everyone in this chamber and all the residents of Joliet and give us the guidance and the inspiration to do what's truly right and not just what's expedient, to give us the patience and the knowledge and intelligence to truly work together. Because I believe as a community here in Joliet, we are unstoppable when we pull together. With those thoughts, I'd like to say, God bless each and every one of you. God bless the city of Joliet, and God bless the city council who are up there working their hardest to make the decisions that will make our lives better. And certainly, God bless those that are in need of help. We all need to help them. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I can shake everyone's hands.
We'll begin with roll call. Mayor Ocober.
Here.
Councilman Clement.
Here.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Here.
Councilman Guerrero.
Here.
Councilman Hug.
Here.
Councilman Morris.
Here.
Councilman Mudron.
Here.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Here.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Here.
First is the approval of the agenda.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to bring the council's attention to Council Memo 507, resolution supporting continued efforts to resolve public safety concerns with the Safety Act. Reading through the resolution here, section 2, City of Joliet encourages legislators to work with public safety representatives and all community stakeholders to fix remaining problems with the Safety Act, including but not limited to unreasonably limiting the imposition of cash bail, unreasonably limiting police officer discretion to make arrests, imposing unreasonable police certification and decertification standards, and mandating unreasonable custodial accommodations. I don't believe that there are clearly defined operational terms for unreasonably limiting imposition of cash bail, police officer discretion, and so forth. I think that this argument laid out within the resolution sort of assumes that we are to take at face value that these terms are true, that they are unreasonably limited. I don't believe that there has been a sufficient proof of, there's a burden of proof to prove that these terms are unreasonably limiting, which I don't believe has been met. And most importantly, I don't see this resolution as having a clearly defined actionable item. It's a resolution, meaning that we would be resolved to do what precisely? It urges our legislators to make some amendments to this bill, but without more clear specifications about what it is that we take issue with within the Safety Act, what it is that we would like to be amended. I don't think that we can reasonably agree on the terms laid out in this resolution, and for that reason, I'm requesting that Council Memo 507-22 be removed from the agenda.
So is there a motion to approve the agenda as written with the following change? Remove Council Memo 507-22, a resolution supporting continued efforts to resolve public safety concerns with this.
Mayor, question.
Yeah, what, I don't understand, remove it from the agenda. If you want to vote it down or vote against it, that'd be proper, but why would this body not have a chance to vote on this?
But I don't think that it's clearly defined what precisely it is that we're voting on.
Would you feel more comfortable if we removed it from the consent agenda and stand alone? I mean, it is.
It is a standalone
Right,
item.
so you'll be fine with that. So we would need to vote to actually remove it from the agenda because the rest of us may want to vote on it.
Right.
It is not in the consent agenda.
Right, I got that. But I don't think it's just, and if any of us request it, you don't just remove the item.
No.
Correct. There would be a motion, that's what I said, is there a motion to approve the agenda as written with that removal? If there's no second, then the motion
Well,
fails.
until you make that clear then.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So we would need a motion to approve the agenda as written with the removal of Council Memo 507-22, resolution supporting continued efforts to resolve public safety concerns with Safety Act.
So move.
Been motioned to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded
Mayor,
to,
excuse me, clarification.
Good.
Are we taking it totally off?
Well, that's what
It would be-
That's what we're
the
doing?
proposal is, which is somewhat, I gotta be frank, is somewhat unusual. There's plenty of split votes. There'll be some big ones tonight, I suspect, but we usually let it go forward. I'm not sure why there's an effort to silence the members of the
I mean,
council.
are we gonna take it off the agenda, or are we gonna amend the agenda that it will be discussed later?
No, it's trying to be taken off the agenda.
Taken totally off.
And I understand that some of us would like to take this a vote. I would have no issue if this was brought back and some of these concerns addressed. Like I said, I don't believe that we've reasonably defined the terms that we're working with within Section 2, unreasonably limiting the imposition of cash bail. I don't think we've defined what constitutes unreasonably limiting. There's no reference to the precise lines within the Safety Act. I mean, we can read through the act as it's written. It is itemized. It is sort of categorized, and we could make references back to those points that we take issue with. I just feel that as this resolution is currently written, I don't think we can. I don't think there's a clear definition of what these terms mean, and therefore I don't think we can reasonably come to a vote on it.
And you're telling your opinion, we certainly could debate it, but we're just trying to prove an agenda right now, not debate specific items. Sabrina, do you want to answer any of this? I know it's a little premature, but you wrote the motion, correct?
Well, the resolution.
The resolution. Okay.
It was simply a resolution in support of continuing efforts, as it states, to work with the state legislature to try to make some of the changes that have been addressed since the proposal of it. So, I mean, if you wanted to have this discussion, we could have discussed the legalities and your concerns prior to.
Well, we had a workshop meeting last night.
Correct.
It would,
But if the rest of the council feels fine moving forward with the agenda,
I think a debate's warranted, and I think it's good, but to take it off the agenda, I think is a little extreme, but obviously there's a motion and a second, so let's have a vote on that.
we can vote on it, or if somebody wanted to rescind their motion or something. So we can move forward with the vote. It's been motioned and seconded to approve the agenda as written with the removal of Council Memo 507-22. Councilman Clement?
No.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero?
I
Councilman Hug?
No?
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
No.
Councilwoman Coleman,
No.
Councilwoman Reardon.
No.
Motion failed. There was 3 ayes and 5 noes. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
Second.
Been motion and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Gavin. Aye. Councilman Guerrero.
No.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
No.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Motion carried 6-2. Next is citizens to be heard on agenda items. First is Quinn Adamowski regarding Council Memo 504-22.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to talk about the rental inspection program ordinance. This is an issue that has been discussed ad nauseum. All the talk over the years and negotiations. Really, it's all just meant to filibuster you guys doing the right thing. It's really meant to obfuscate the real issues. And what are those real issues? Safety and quality of life of residential property in the city. Everything else is just noise. Residents in the city deserve safe, welcoming, and affordable housing. Let's talk about safety just for 1 minute. In reference to the passing of this measure, which would help ensure safe and appropriate housing, i.e., make sure that units are up to code, last night we heard one landlord say the quiet part out loud. Honestly, it's one of the more amazing comments we've heard around this issue over this time. He would consider selling the properties if this measure is approved. That's what he said. This is his direct quote. I'm going to sell some of mine because I know it is going to be too expensive to put egress windows in and to do this and to do that. It's just not worth it. Not worth it. Is it worth it to the tenant? That's it. That's the whole point. That is why we keep advocating for this policy. Some landlords do not want to invest in their properties. The city needs to step up and have a uniform policy to ensure that they do. Again, people deserve safe housing. And if landlords want basement living quarters, that includes homes with egress windows. The passage of this measure will also resolve another major problem, the complaint-based, snitch-based system. Why should residents have to complain to have a safe place to live? Snitch-based policy is not appropriate. It's not fair to the residents. And it's the city's responsibility to ensure the existence of safe and affordable housing. We're the 3rd largest city and the 6th largest state, and we need to act like it. Provide residents assurances that they are in appropriate buildings. Of course, there are terrific landlords, but you cannot make a policy for select few. This measure is clean, it's simple, it makes sense. The countermeasures we heard last night are headache-inducing new policy suggestions. We don't need to have more discussion. This cleans it up, streamlines it, and offers uniformity of the program, which is desperately needed. All rental properties would finally be treated the same, as they should be. It should not matter what type of rental it is, multi, duplex, single, everything should be treated the same. And I believe in the capacity of the City of Joliet staff to make this work. The question in front of you tonight is whether this policy should be approved and codified, not the implementation of the policy. Let staff do what they do. Let them make it work. Finally, circling back, this has been debated long enough. It's the longest table in history, the table of tables, if you will, going all the way back to 2020. No more time is needed. No more debate is needed. What is needed is an up or down vote and to let residents know where you stand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Lanham regarding Council Memo 507-22.
How's everyone doing tonight? Everyone probably remembers the first time I came to a council meeting, I spoke out against the Safety Act. I was one of the first to speak out against it. I asked the council to pass a resolution back then asking Governor Pritzker to veto it, citing it being dishonestly legislated, its danger to law-abiding citizens and victims, unreasonable restrictions placed on law enforcement, several unconstitutional aspects, and its unfunded mandates. Soon after, however, Pritzker signed it into law. So we didn't get a chance back then. We have a chance to be heard now. Even if the bill has some good measures, which it does, the bad ones far outweigh that. the bill has been amended 4 times in just over a year. That shows the many, many, many defects in it. If that was a car, you would get a new car if it was a lemon law. So please vote yes on this and send a message to Springfield to get this straightened out and remove the bad, keep the good, and go forward from there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Donna Russell regarding Council Memo 507-22.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Donna Russell. I was asked by several Joliet residents to speak on their behalf regarding the Safety Act, and I agree with Mr. Guerrero that it is ambiguous, and I think that's why a lot of the residents are so confused about it. I think that the people that are against it have justification from their perspective. And I hope that the council looks at all perspectives in considering what they need to do with this act. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amanda Burns regarding Council Memo 504-22.
Good evening. I'm Amanda Burns, the CEO of Three Rivers Association of Realtors based here in Joliet. And it's incredibly frustrating that we have to keep coming to these meetings to help stop bad legislation. National Association of Realtors studies show that we have a housing affordability crisis, not only in Joliet, but across the country, brought about predominantly by NIMBY legislators, not in our backyard. Any legislation that increases housing costs right now is severely misguided. Please put this costly and ineffective proposal to bed for the last time. Let's instead get to work on attracting smart housing development in Joliet. You all have rightfully brought workforce to Joliet. Now it's time to house them.
Thank you.
Diane Harris regarding Council Memo 507-22.
As speakers approach, can you identify yourself for the record, give your name and address, please? Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Diane Harris, Joliet resident, 424 Buell Avenue. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As a citizen of Joliet for over 60 years, I've always respected the JPD and looked to them to serve and protect. Not only did we look for them to serve and protect, we also looked out for our communities. But all that has changed, not for the good. As you already know, the Safety Act is one of the #1 issues on this election, the upcoming election. And regarding expertise, when you think in terms of 100 out of 102 experts are against the Safety Act, which would tell us that there is some ambiguity. So I am glad that you're listening, and I also applaud you're moving forward tonight. Thank you for your commitment to keep the residents safe and for supporting Jim Glasgow's challenge of this law. This can only lead to officers serving and protect as they always have done. Therefore, I support the city's proclamation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nora Gruenberg regarding Council Memo 504-22.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Nora Gruenberg from New Lenox, and I am here tonight representing the Illinois Realtors and 450 realtors that live and work in Joliet. First of all, I want to acknowledge that the city has responded to some of our concerns regarding the financial impact of one of the more recent iterations of the single-family rental inspection ordinance that would have had a negative impact on housing providers. Removing that $50 per address fee is noted and appreciated. Ultimately, however, I am still obligated to voice our opposition to this ordinance. Our concerns range from recognizing that the city already has mechanisms in place to address concerns about single-family rentals to offering yet another obstacle to solving a housing crisis that spans from a lack of inventory and issues of affordability to an enduring stigma against rental housing. We ask that the council continue working towards a solution that places good policy over politics. And we remain prepared to work with council members and staff to find solutions to the housing crisis that ultimately impacts all of us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Glenn Martin regarding Council Memo 504-22.
Hello, thanks to City Council and the Joliet residents for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Glenn Martin, 103 Comstock. I have one single-family home and a multi-unit that is currently enrolled in the rental program. As a landlord who has long-term tenants and strive to keep expenses down, rent down, and turnover down, I pride myself on keeping nice-looking units and trouble-free. I take care of all my properties. In these tough financial times, enrolling in a new rental inspection program is going to be tough on the affordable housing of Joliet. We all know where expenses go, they roll downhill, unfortunately. And that's not what Joliet or the residents need. I know firsthand how expensive the rental program is. Every 4 years in my multi-unit building, the inspection process comes out, it starts, it's a fee for them to come out. They're very good people, respectful, but they have a job to do and they do it very well. Just for an example, I had one of the inspections that they did, I needed a cable between the hot and cold water pipes of the hot water tank. It's been like this for 50 years, but I had to get a plumber to put the cable in. Even though the hot and cold water pipes connect at every faucet, I still had to have that plumber come out. I have on the first floor of the multi-unit, I have a powder room, which is a small pedestal sink and a toilet. I had to put a GFI electrical outlet in there. Again, it hasn't been in there for 50 years, but I had to open up the walls, have the electrician come out, and all those costs are coming down to the tenant. I mean, I had to pay it, but that's where they are. I try and keep my rents down. So, like I say, it's been there for 50 years, and it all trickles down to the tenants. If you pass the single-family inspection, you should pass every single-family home that's in Joliet. But of course you can't do that because the residents would scream. What's good for me should be good for all the homes there. Why don't you make every powder room have to have that electrical outlet? You know, everybody would be saying, stay out of my house, and I'm kind of saying the same thing. Make the rules the same for everybody, but I believe there's a better way, and I believe it's more equitable for the landlords and equitable for the tenants. If we would have something such as if you had 2 calls over a 2-year period, then enroll it in the rental inspection program. I'd be all for that. You'd alleviate the problem units while keeping the other units that are running fine. They could have reasonable rents. I'm not a professional here, as you can tell, but I'm just speaking to everybody. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, we're trying to keep affordability going on here. You know, true, everybody's not like me and takes care of their places, but I think you'd be hurting everybody, and especially the residents of Joliet. They don't need it. They don't need any more expenses now than what they currently have, and that's exactly what this program is going to do. I thank you for your time and your consideration. I hope everybody listens to me and feels in their heart what's the right thing to do. We all want safe homes, but to make everybody pay for, you know, a few bad ones, there's got to be a better way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mark Wallace, 504-22.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Dr. Mark Wallace, landlord for 25 years. Good seeing you again last night. During this process, I've learned to be flexible. I've been working with you all now for about the last 2 years in regard to this project. And I've been very, very flexible, and I've been able to hear the other side's point of view, work collaboratively with different parties to present a 4-way win inspection process that we talked about last night and went over. And that was one that had very little cost to be implemented over the course of time. However, the biggest lesson I've learned during this process that I've been working with everybody is that this process really wasn't about inspections. It really wasn't about compromise. It was all about controlling and eliminating the unwanted rental population in the cathedral area through the inspection process. I heard clearly right here in this chamber last year this.
Terry, I have, in these older neighborhoods, I have so many widow ladies that live alone.
So it's
and
not
they're
appropriate.
afraid.
It's public comment. Make your comment, please. If you want to reference something in the record, feel free to, but it's not show and tell.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, overall, overall, I've heard that it was about saving little old ladies in the backyard for them going into their backyards and not being able, and them being safe in that area. So it's really not about the neighborhoods. It's really not about the inspection process. It's about the neighborhoods and making sure people are safe. We learned through this process that there's very little credibility to the data to help us make educated decisions. Hence, there's no analysis to be completed here. There's no roll-up budget that's been made or proposed, and no tenant impact during this inflationary crisis has even been talked about. My question to the council before you all vote is simply this. Has the due diligence been completed during this process for you to feel comfortable to enable this incomplete framework to move forward? Don't sign this blank check and allow this Trojan horse to come into our communities and to raise the prices of our residents. I ask you, please vote no to this until we are able to work together and collaboratively on a solution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yolanda Knight, 504-22.
Good evening, council. I've been a resident here in Joliet for a while. I'm in a single family home. My rent be on time. I take care of 5 grandbabies. And at this particular time, I don't need the government in my home. And let alone the government in my home, if it passed in that way, if y'all charging my landlord, then he's gonna charge me. You see what I'm saying? And I can't afford that. I really can't afford it, so I'll vote no on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tycee Bell, 507-22.
Tycee Bell, 3101 Heritage Drive in Joliet, Illinois. Good evening, Mayor and Councilmen and women. House Bill 3653 was written to increase public safety for everyone while dismantling the systems that hold Black people back from achieving their full potential, as well as increasing trust between law enforcement and the Black community. The culmination of 9 public hearings over which 30 hours of testimony was gathered by the General Assembly. It focuses on police accountability, including police training, limits on the use of force, increased transparency, and accountability regarding officer misconduct. Earlier last year, I took a UMedics training on the bleed out, as well as being a first aid instructor. That was something that enlightened me on the things that police officers see when they're out in the field. I've been to several meetings with civilians in the community. I've served in mental health homes as a staff, and over the years, more recently with Girl Scouts. I've seen first-time offender programs in Joliet. My friend's dad worked at IYC, Illinois Youth Correctional Facility, and I also lost 2 uncles to gun violence here in Joliet and started an initiative called Brothers in the Black. When I think about the Safety Act and the media and the fear that's been incited in our community, I just wanted to stand up here today and say that when I read the bill, I believe that I saw an opportunity to uplift and encourage those who are already in a space where there can be challenges with trusting police officers and or working with police officers. I recently sat with a few police officers who've been first on a crime scene, and I talked to them about the UMedics bleed out training, and they said there was nothing they could do. You know, the young man had already lost his life. I often don't share those stories as our friend Robert Hernandez does when he walks in the alleys and speaks to officers. When we see over 1,000 people viewing those videos, I am saying that we're losing everything in America. Everything in our cities is about race. Everything is about war on drugs, war on this. I feel like we just need to win some victories. We need to celebrate some things together. This is an opportunity to come together. This is an opportunity to work with kids, their families. This is an opportunity to prove that this council can work together and have conversations with the community and stop making decisions without the people. I believe that there are solutions, and this is the time to bring your own experiences, your own expertise, which you've said many times before, rather than just saying we're bridging gaps, but actually expand the resources to help. I believe that this bill is something that we should provide more information on. And I also believe that it's just another opportunity to divide us. I just feel like this is a human race issue. I believe that there are things that we can do. I believe that the current pretrial practice facts are today, a person charged with murder, rape, sex offenses, gun crimes can use cash bail for release and be back on the streets. When in fact, after January 1st, a person charged with murder, rape, sex offenses, or gun crimes cannot buy their release no matter how much money they have. So we need to focus on some facts. We need to get the real information out there about what's really happening with the Safety Act. And I'm just asking that we do that as a community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kara Jones, 504-22.
Good evening, Council. My name is Dr. Tara Jones. I reside at 806 Winthorpe Avenue. When, at the beginning of this meeting, Councilman Hug mentioned that it's a time for us to all come together, yes? And I'm in total agreement. He mentioned that we're all, as a community, going through challenges. Well, I have been a Joliet resident for several years. I have rented for several years. And if you drove down my block, you would not know who rented and who owned. We are a community. We have developed as a community. I know my neighbors, they know me. So some of the solutions that you're looking at is, yes, everyone wants nice, safe homes. Anyone that's been in my home, they say, oh, I love your home. And I said, thank you. You know why? Because I take pride in where I live. So some of the challenges that I think that you're looking at is with the safety and all of that is not directly at the landlords, because you want to control what the landlords rent to. We're already in a housing crisis. We're already having challenges. I remember when I met my current landlord, I was facing issues because my finances fit in this little small box, right? And so because my finances fit in this small box, it was automatically assumed that I wasn't a good renter. Well, I'm not late on my rent. I take care of my property. And even when I face health challenges, I've had that support. So instead of penalizing the good landlords, and because of the few that are not, I do understand there are some slumlords out there. I do understand that, and we all deserve safe housing. But look, you're going to penalize the good landlords and you're going to discourage them. Why discourage them from continuing to do the right thing and then pass on that to the tenant? Because you impose fees on them, they're going to pass it on to me. I'm already struggling. We're already struggling as a community, right? So if I'm struggling paying him, and which I haven't been late, but that doesn't mean it's not easy. If I'm struggling, then why would you impose that more? And I vote, I am active, and I just want you to know that I'm paying attention, and I'm just asking you to vote no. How about we continue to be a part of the solution? How about a landlord-tenant association where the tenants and the landlords bring in the new landlords and teach them how to be good landlords. Ask the good landlords to teach the slumlords how to be good landlords. And then have the tenants. You teach the tenants how to take pride in where they live. Because when you take pride in where you live, you do better. So when you know better, you do better. And it's all about teaching them. So what are you going to do? Push everybody out? We all have to have a place to live. Whether you are a renter, whether you're poor, whether you're rich. And all I can say is by the grace of God, there go I.
Thank you.
Whitney Crudup, 504-22. Whitney Crudup.
Hello, my name is Whitney Crudup. I'm a Joliet resident. I actually live across the street from Mrs. Jones, and it is a wonderful neighborhood. You wouldn't know who rents, you wouldn't know who owns. We all know each other. We all take pride in our neighborhood. My issue is I already struggle enough to pay my rent on time. I pay my rent on time and in full. We do not get a grace period. I make sure I pay it. You increase my landlord's fees, then I have to pay more money. Just like my landlord comes quarterly to do his inspections, to fix whatever it is in the house. During the pandemic, he came in, he gave me an extra bedroom. He came in and he did what he was supposed to do as a landlord. So you're gonna punish the ones that are doing the correct thing for the ones who are not doing the correct thing. Punish the ones who need to be punished and leave the ones who are doing what they're supposed to do alone. It took a lot to remove myself and my children out of the bad neighborhood. I stay in a pretty decent place. My kids go to school, they get good grades. I just sent my son to college. Continue to give us that opportunity to allow us to take our children and loved ones out of those bad neighborhoods or the neighborhoods that nobody wants to live in. Don't punish us when we're doing what we're supposed to do. I get up, I go to work every day. You don't have a problem out of me. I'm a good, abiding citizen. I follow the rules. So allow me to continue to make it what I make, because the cost of living go up, but I don't get a raise when the cost of living goes up. I don't get food stamps no more. I pay for my own health insurance. I don't get no public assistance. So you're gonna continue to take away from me when I'm doing my best and I'm striving to do better and I'm trying to show my kids something different than what I grew up in. So allow us to continue to have that opportunity to paint these pictures for our children, to let them know hard work, education, and you work for what you want, and you'll continue to be able to get those things. By you taking it from us, you're showing us like we'll never make it out, we'll never have that chance. Continue to give us that chance and continue to let the good landlords do what they do best, because they're actually doing a good job.
Thank you.
Gretchen Fritz, 507-22.
Good evening. My name is Gretchen Fritz. I actually live in Plainfield. I've been serving on the Will County Board since 2014. As a fellow elected official, I came to say thank you for standing up to Springfield and speaking out against the Safety, Accountability, Fairness, and Equity Today Act. My caucus asked the majority caucus of the county board to do the same thing that you were about to do, but they did not have the courage to tell the Illinois General Assembly that this law is wrong for Will County. It's wrong for such a heavy burden to be placed on the legal system to show clear and convincing evidence that a suspect should not be released without bond in a pre-trial situation. It's wrong to put violent criminals back on the street to commit more crimes just because they're not a clear threat to a specific person. It's wrong to give criminals on electronic monitoring 48 hours of total freedom to do God knows what before they are considered to be in violation of the terms of their release. Need I point out that they could be out of state by then? Finally, as an elected official, I am sick to death of the unfunded mandates that the state of Illinois feels free to place on the smaller units of government. The Safety, Accountability, Fairness, and Equity Today Act requires all police officers to wear and use body cameras. While most officers do not object to the use of these cameras, the financial burden of providing these systems quickly tops $1 million. Will County's full-time deputies already have body-worn cameras, but our auxiliary deputies do not. Thank you, Joliet City Council, for taking this step. Time is running out for the General Assembly to act. I pray that they listen to our concerns.
Thank you.
Jerry Hervey.
How y'all doing? It's been a minute. Jerry Hervey, 712 North Rainer Avenue. So I was expected to speak on both agendas. Can I speak on both agendas, or am I limited to one?
Sure, no.
Okay, so the first thing I'll speak out is on the rental program. We've been through hoops and hurdles with these landlords for God knows how long. And for every person that stood up here and had a great story about how a landlord did justice, we got just as many not being heard about how landlords did not fix things, how they're living in squander, how they are off. This is an intimidation tactic by landlords to make these tenants think that their rent is going to go up based on what y'all make them do, make them come into compliance. It's long overdue. This is the cost of doing business. They want to say that their rent is going to go up. Well, I got news for you. Rent has went up everywhere. So it's not based off of if your landlord is doing his job. Your rent is already going up, and everybody in this room can attest to that. based off the cost of living. So if a landlord is found to be in compliance, he gets a 5-year certificate where he pays $20 a year. That's something they're not talking about. Why would I even put that on a tenant? I had to sit through a story with a young lady who had a child that suffered from asthma, and it was mold in the apartment. The landlord refused to address the mold. She's constantly taking her child back and forth to the hospital. So now she's stuck making a decision. The safety of her child, or does she have somewhere to stay? Which one do you pick at that point? This is long overdue. Landlords don't want to be held accountable, and if they don't like it, tough. This is the cost of doing business. So on the next agenda with the Safety Act, it's too much gaslighting and too many false narratives. Y'all got the public thinking that all of these dangerous criminals will be released come the 1st of January. There's no truth to it. What it does is hand the power to the judge to determine if a suspect should be released. So the people who will not be released will be the most dangerous. But you got somebody who's convicted, who's arrested for a pot crime. Okay, he goes on electronic monitor. That person pays for his own electronic monitoring. Why am I locking somebody up for pot anyway? So make that make sense. So don't scare the public. Why don't y'all take the time to educate the public on what the Safety Act really is? It's not about releasing violent criminals. It's about releasing the stress and the burden on the prison system until it's time. So if you get somebody convicted of murder, rape, kidnapping, they will not be released on bond. So please stick to the facts and stop gaslighting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy Spieler.
Sorry, it takes me a little bit longer than everyone else, I guess. Okay. Kathy Spieler, Reedwood Neighborhood Association. Our association supports the single-family rental program. I brought this with tonight. It's a can. I'm going to come back to it a little bit later. Okay. The city has, a lot of things were addressed yesterday, and I'm going to address some of the statements that I heard. The city has no idea how many single-family rentals there are. Well, this program is the solution for that. I fully expect imperfection and glitches in this program when it starts. I don't know of any other new city program that has gone off without a hitch. Another one, there were no tenants at the meeting last night. Actually, that's untrue. There was a lady here and she supported the program fully. So I'm here to speak for tenants as well. Reality check. The tenants do not need education on how to report problems. They know how. Tenants need to know that they won't be evicted if they report their landlords. And sorry, there's no guarantee of that. When you report the landlord, you risk losing your housing. About 20 years ago, I rented from a first-time landlord. This landlord was unbearable. She came in the house when we weren't home, and when the laundry room backed up with sewage, she referred me to the laundromat instead of fixing the issue. At that time, with a 3-year-old child and having disabilities myself, this was an extreme hardship. What could I say? I had to be quiet, I had to tolerate her, and wait until my lease was up. And then I had to get financial assistance to move. I heard the inspection costs will go to the tenants. If so, shame on the landlords for doing this. But if they do, so be it. It's worth it in the long run for the safety of the tenant. $50 fee per property is $4 a month. And on a 5-year basis, if you don't have violations, it's 69 cents a month. Give up a McDonald's cheeseburger and you're all good. Okay, if you say that you have to sell your properties because you will soon be accountable, well, that's a very telling statement, isn't it? You have to get rid of your properties because you might be accountable in a rental inspection program. Another statement, saying that this is nothing more than a political move to be elected. Are you kidding? Has it been a political move since 1979? And for their information, rentals that are inspected by the city still will be inspected by government agencies. It doesn't end. I said the last two meetings that landlords owning duplexes and multi-units are feeling they're being very fairly untreated. And now let me tell you how the tenant feels. They feel singled out and punished, and it is a form of discrimination. So you're in a duplex, and then there's the rental home. Both have basements, yards, and it's almost the same size dwelling. Many duplexes require the tenants to cut the grass and maintain landscaping. So aside from one connecting wall, what's the difference? And respectfully, I really don't care to hear from non-residents how Joliet should do their budget. We have enough of that meddling with other issues. If you are living in a gated community or outside of the city of Joliet, you cannot possibly relate to any of the hardships I'm speaking about here tonight. If the city needs a way to pay for the additional inspectors, use the pot money. Instead of thinking up new programs for that money, use it for inspectors, which improves the life and the quality of everyone in the city, not just a group. Go over the budget, quit subsidizing some of the unnecessary things in the city. So here it is.
Can you wrap it up, please?
Is anyone ever going to kick this can down the road again, or are we going to stop and we're going to vote tonight? It's 1979, 1992, 2012, 22, 43 years. I hope nobody's going to kick it. Then, may I speak on the HB?
I'm sorry, we have 4 minutes, we have to move on, I'm sorry.
Okay, there was two subjects. Mr. Hervey was able to speak.
Right, we did within 4 minutes.
Oh, okay.
I apologize.
I'm lengthy, that's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Beth Gannon. Mary Beth Gannon.
Hi, Mary Beth Keegan, Western Avenue, Joliet. I'll try to keep it quick. You just heard my best friend Kathy there. 43 years ago, Kathy's mom, Bernie Spieler, tried to get this here. 43 years. And it keeps getting pushed back. How much longer does it have to be? Oh, we need to work this out. We need to work that out. No, please vote on this tonight. This is a quality of life issue that affects all of our residents. They deserve to live in a decent rental. Anyone who objects to this, I wouldn't be surprised if they are a slumlord. If you're a good landlord, this is not going to affect you. And I would like to say a couple more things quickly. Last night I listened to Mr. Sheridan. I thought he made a great point. He said, you know, when you come out of something where neither side's happy, it's probably a win. And I agree with that. And I know that you can't ask questions and expect to be answered, but I'm gonna put a couple questions out there and I'm hoping my friend Jan or somebody will pick up on them. I would like to know, and perhaps someone else can ask this, can a council member who is a landlord vote on this issue, or do they have to abstain? Is this seen as a conflict of interest? Is this an ethics violation? Is this something the Inspector General needs to know about? Because I know for a fact that two of you sitting up there tonight are landlords. And if you don't abstain from voting, I will be reporting you tomorrow. Thank you.
Carl Farrell, 507-22.
How you doing tonight? Carl Farrell, Ingles Park. Let's see where I want to start at. All right. The Pretrial Fairness Act ensures that the safety of our communities is the central factor in the judge's decision on whether to release someone pretrial. False statements or doomsday predictions that are geared in fear-mongering and gaslighting, but they also ignore one of the legislation's primary goal, which is improving community safety. Today, the primary factor determining whether a person is jailed or released pretrial isn't the facts of the case or even the safety of the community members, it's the size of the person's bank account. An example for Joliet, the teacher that murdered his wife in front of his kids, and he bonded out and he's still out on bond. He's a murderer, right? But because he had the financial situation to, be able to bond out, he can afford that $200,000, which cost him to bond out of jail. So he's free. He's out, right? He's been out for years, and as long as he has money, he can continue to prolong his trial. right? And during that time, he may do something else, all because he had a bank account. Under the current system, many people who pose a danger to someone in the community are able to buy their way out of jail if they have money. Meanwhile, others who pose no danger to anyone languish in jail simply because they can't afford to pay bond. The Pretrial Fairness Act fixes this by ensuring the fact that no finances are the main factor determining who is jailed and who is released pre-trial. Presently, bond decisions are made in just a few minutes, which does not give the attorneys adequate time to make arguments or the judges necessary time to thoroughly evaluate each case. To build safe communities, we must be smart on crime, not simply tough on those who have been accused of committing it. Although critics are acting like we are swimming in uncharted waters, Illinois is not alone in making this change. The federal system and our nation's capital have operated without money bonds for decades. In fact, so good that no one knows when somebody goes to jail for a federal crime. No one sees that person bond out or has to worry about that because that's it. That situation that is operating so efficiently that it's not a worry to others. Well, the Safety Act simply mirrors that. Currently, our state is unnecessarily locking people for months and sometimes years because they can't afford one of the basic rights, the presumption of innocence. We are innocent until proven guilty. Trump is even considered innocent. Imagine if we were treated all men as equal under the law. Wait, that is, unless we are considered slaves or inmates. Transition, back into the fact that the 13th Amendment created a lot of these situations that we are still currently dealing with. Misinformation has been amplified by social media. Our state's attorney said that on January 1st, jails will be empty out of people who are charged with murder and who are held on no money bonds. The Safety Act doesn't explicitly address what would happen to people currently incarcerated on money bonds January 1st, but prosecutors have the ability under the law to petition for people charged with murder and other violent crimes to be jailed pre-trial. That's the detention hearing that they will receive, where if they are found to be a threat to society, their ability to get a bond will be stripped from them and they will have to be incarcerated until their trial date. So basically, man, it's a lot of gaslighting. It's a lot of false notions that are going on. But facts of the pretrial fairness is that it will remove more violent offenders off of the streets. It will release taxpayer dollars that are getting spent on housing people for 6 months for a traffic violation that it can't afford to pay that $300 bond. It removes that and it gives those people the necessary help that they need. You know what I mean? And it locks up more of the violent offenders.
Thank you.
Pollock, 507-22.
My name is Pollock. I'm a resident of Joliet, and I would like to first of all extend to everyone the greetings of peace be with you. Because everybody wants peace. I was once told even the meanest animal in the jungle wants peace. That's why they're so mean. They want peace and can't find it. On the Safety Act, let me say this. Crime is destroying our society. And I'll be one of the first ones to stand up and say, the criminals should be punished. But before you identify someone as a criminal, give them due justice. Bail was not designed originally to keep anybody off the street. I think maybe some out of ignorance or maybe just evil. Bail was designed to make sure that a person appeared in court to see whether or not he or she was guilty. Now I do realize that my words often don't resonate with certain people because, deals have been made and money has been paid, and some of you don't have a choice but to vote a certain way. But I want it on record that this country established the bail system not to punish someone just because they were accused of something. You can't say someone's accused is guilty because they were accused. And that's what you should think about is the humanity. Think of yourself if you were accused of something and the judge dropped a $10 million bail on you and you were innocent. And remember that everybody accused is not guilty. Everybody who is accused is not guilty. Being accused does not mean you're guilty. So What you want to do now is take and punish a person for being accused. Think about that. You want to punish a person for being accused. You want to punish a person for simply being accused of a crime. That's not what bail is for. You know that's not what bail is for, unless you're ignorant. If you're ignorant, then that's another thing. But you know bail was designed to make sure that the accused would appear in court. And I think you should take that in consideration, unless maybe you're not ignorant. Maybe you're just evil. We don't know. Peace be with you.
Thank you.
Larry Ellis, 503-22.
Good evening, members of Joliet City Council. I'm Reverend Larry Ellis here in the Joliet area. And I want to address this issue of vacation of a portion of McKinley and Edwards and Lawton. This is an issue that was addressed 14 years ago. Families lost their homes, families were uprooted, and they were unfairly paid the amount of money that they should have received for their homes. These were homes that were built from the ground up. And I'm just wondering at this point, why is this issue now being brought up before the city council 14 years later, after these homes have been taken and a sewer treatment plant has been put in place? That was my concern. And my concern is this, and some of the concerns of the people that live in that area, that adjacent area right now, is wondering what's on the horizon for their homes and why this is now coming up. So my comment on that is, if they're gonna move even further in that neighborhood and take more homes, let's be compassionate enough to let these people know ahead of time and to give them fair market value for their homes. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Karen Ward, 504-22.
Good evening. Karen Ward, Clinton, Joliet, Illinois. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City Manager, and City staff. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I am here tonight to voice my concerns and hope for a change in ordinances, laws, policies, and procedures to make it mandatory that all rental properties, whether apartments, condos, townhouses, single-family homes, etc., whether privately owned through an LLC, corporation, or any other entity, be required to have an annual mandatory inspection. No exceptions. Due to some less than favorable owners and landlords, it is important in making sure that all these homes are suitable for living, and it is necessary to have all of them inspected annually. Many vulnerable people, such as victims of domestic violence, are looking for a safe, clean, and peaceful place to live. But what some are forced to endure are conditions with mice, rats, bugs, termites, squirrels, and other rodents, as well as leaky roofs, broken windows, non-working electrical outlets, non-working showers, etc., with landlords refusing to fix it because they know they don't have to. Once the lease is signed, some landlords turn into Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. After a tenant signs a lease, often they only see the good parts of the living space that landlords put forth, and then the landlords refused to repair anything. It is important and evident that a strong message must be sent to all landlords that every single rental will be subject to mandatory annual inspections. Everyone deserves to be treated humanely, with respect, and not where water is dripping into electrical items or mice scurrying across the floor while they sleep. If someone ends up sleeping in their car or on the street because their living conditions are horrendous, that is unacceptable. Please make it mandatory that every rental property in the city of Joliet is required to have mandatory annual inspections. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak tonight? Anyone else that would like to speak on an agenda item? Seeing none, before we move on, I believe the city manager has a few words he'd like to say.
Yep.
I'm sorry, you say because our agenda?
With an agenda item, would you like to speak on an agenda item?
Not on an agenda.
Thank you.
Have something else.
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, go ahead and we can, if you have that piece of paper, I'm gonna narrate something because we couldn't have it because of the language in it, so I'm gonna gloss over that part.
What is this regarding?
And this is in regarding to Council Number 504-22, and it shows a resident that is having some issues, and here it is right here.
You're cut off.
Exactly. I'll try to hustle through. But go ahead, and it says, look at them all over the blank counters, the rooftop, the fridge is full. Look at them all. There's literally thousands of rats crawling out of the cabinet, under the cabinet. Of course, the usual 25 or 30 on top of the fridge, running across the counters. Yep, blank, really good company. Here, you gotta stay another blank month. We won't let you out of your lease because we want that last blank month of rent. We don't give a blank that this place is infested completely with rats because one of our employees, which now has a place to live, and I'll be homeless in 3 weeks. Blank is the biggest slumlord you've ever seen. We're not gonna let you out of your lease unless you sign a notice to vacate, and then you gotta stay 30 more days so we can get that last rent out of the housing authority. Real lowlife blank. I'm gonna post this so everyone can see. So as we continue on, you can see the multitude of rats there. At one point, as it goes along, you'll see some rats eating another dead rat during this thing. These are the kinds of things that we need to have here in the city. The inspection programs to prevent these kinds of things. This is a person who can't even get out of the rent. There you can see them, and they're eating a dead rat, one of their compatriots right there. So this is the kind of disgusting thing that some landlords, how they feel about their property. The landlord currently doesn't live in the city of Joliet.
Excuse me. If we could keep decorum, please. Go ahead.
The landlord doesn't live in Joliet. It's my understanding they sold this property to an LLC, of course, owned by themselves. So there was no change. The city of Joliet, we are supposed to give voice to the voiceless. We are supposed to take care of those people who are not able to speak up for themselves. That's why we need to have 504-22 passed. As city manager, we and the city and staff will make this work. We will ensure that we have inspections. We don't go to police officers and ask them, how much money did you make for the city today, whether or not we can afford them or not. We have a police department to make sure that people are safe. We have a fire department for 40 or 50 fires a year, but I have 200 firefighters ready and standing by to put out fires. Everybody here today walked through a metal detector to make sure that everybody here was safe, and that's an inspection, because it only takes one or two. People should to do great harm to many. So with that, those are the things that I would like to say on behalf of the staff, that we are complete support of 50422. Thank you.
Moving on the agenda to appointments. Tonight, the mayor is recommending the following reappointments to the Committee on Citizens with Disabilities: Tony Ariano, Stephen Voigt, Billy Joe Adams, Sherry Voigt, Pam Heavens, Kim Hudgens, and Gary Jones. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Been motion seconded to approve. Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin. Aye. Also this evening, the mayor is recommending the following appointment to the Committee on Citizens with Disabilities: Kevin Huckfelt. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Been motion seconded to approve. Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is council committee reports versus the land use and legislative committee reports.
Wow. Yes, we met, the Land Use Legislative Committee met Friday, September 23rd here in the council chamber at 4 p.m. We had a couple agenda items. One being the Code of Ordinance amending the section regarding dog running. That item was tabled. We were gonna have a report or a conversation from someone from the Joliet Animal or Will County Animal, what do you call it?
Animal control.
Animal control. Thank you, Councilwoman.
You're welcome.
Yeah, but they weren't able to make it at the last minute, so I believe they'll be on our next meeting, which would be next Thursday at 4 p.m. here in the council chamber, if anyone cares to join us. Our second item is, I'm gonna keep this real short because we talked about it quite a bit today, was the single family rental inspection amendment, and those that, and there's many that have been at several of our meetings. I heard that they've been going, 40-something years now, know where I stand on this, and all our positions. Councilman Clement, Councilwoman Quillman is on the committee along with me, and we went over this with the landlords, with the realtors, with the neighborhood association, and with the residents, and as well as some of the renters here at Joliet. So this motion was passed, as you can see, to the full council unanimously from the committee for the consideration of this council. And again, I just like to just say this, Mr. Mayor, is that there are some things in this ordinance that I'm not totally happy with, but again, it's something, I kind of look at it like a work in progress. And I think it needs to be some more work done on it for the better. But I do think this will improve the city of Joliet housing market. It's not gonna happen overnight, but it will take time. I think the landlords will put more effort in a product that they have, as the young lady said, and get the tenants involved. I do know someone had mentioned, I don't know if we still do it, the landlord would come together at the ballroom. Remember, you know what I'm talking about? The landlord, the city would have the landlords come for training.
Landlord-tenant training.
Right, thank you. Well, I get a lot of help to see. Thank you.
That's what we're here for, Terry. What committee?
Thank you. So I don't know if we've done it. I know with COVID, it's probably been suspended, but I think they would do it in the morning for the landlords that couldn't, come in the evening, and there was one done in the evening. Mr. Mayor, I think that was a good program, and I would like to see that. If it's not still done, I might have missed it or something, but I know we've done that. And if there's something we could do for the tenants, would be helpful too. I'm done.
Thank you.
Joe, Dan, anything?
No, you did a great job.
Thank you.
It was a long meeting, but we did it.
Yep.
Public Safety Committee.
Okay, Public Safety met here in council chambers this evening at 5:30. Present was Chief
Carey, the new fire department chief, and Deputy Chief Botsam from the Joliet Police Department. Councilman Clement and myself are present. And we discussed items on the agenda. First one was to replace the live scan equipment in the amount of $116,280. The current equipment is 20 years old and we need a portable one. So we decided, and there is money set aside for that, so they were planning on this for some time, so we sent that for approval to council. The other one is intergovernmental agreement with Joliet Township High School District 204 for the School Resource Officer Program. We discussed this at a private public safety, a prior intergovernmental agreement with
this is too big.
the prior safety public, gosh darn it, prior public safety committee meeting last month. We met and discussed this, and today we discussed it further. We got the agreement and we approved it to go to council as well. Then the last one was exploring a grant opportunity for community outreach. So apparently there's $25 million for community outreach. There's a big grant out there for a community care program. And Deputy Chief, he's been Deputy Chief for so long. Chief of the Fire Department, Jeff Carey, is going to explain this grant money. Yes, why don't you come here? I'm calling you Deputy Chief so long, I can't. It's habit.
How's everybody doing? I just took the opportunity tonight to explain a grant opportunity we were looking to explore with the fire department through a grant for a community outreach program. With all of the things we've been doing in our community risk reduction program, that program was developed to meet the basic needs of the citizens of whatever that might be. Could be mental health, could be basic health, could be heat in their buildings, could be kind of infestations like that. It's a process where people in the city would be able to reach into our community risk reduction officer, and we collaborate a team with city departments and community resources to be able to go and help with any community needs. Why that's great with a lot of the people who own homes, some of the harder to reach people, we need to actually have a community team that can go out and visit them, kind of like with the homeless and this and that. They did a project like this in Massachusetts, and it really helped eliminate their homelessness by the community outreach, where they were able to get them jobs, get them into homes, and take care of a lot of the basic needs. So it's a program that will benefit all citizens of Joliet. The grant, if we get it, would cover the program for 4 years, all for every expense of it is. So I just went to public safety to tell them that it was something we were interested in doing. I think it'd be a great program to have here in the city of Joliet to reach out and go into our community and reach some of the most vulnerable people and bring these programs to them. So it's just something we were looking to explore.
Very good, thank you.
Chief.
All right. Yeah.
Hold on, Chief. Jan?
Yes.
Can you touch on the AEDs? I think this is very important, some of the statistics and what you're planning on bringing forward in the near future.
Yes, another part of our community risk reduction program that we started this year, and we've worked with Councilman Clement on, is getting more public access AEDs out in our community. As we changed our CPR 2 years ago on the fire department, we were able to increase our life saves by over 50%. But a big part of what we've seen is when people get an AED applied to them in public, they live almost every time. And the statistics show that 90% of the people who have an AED applied to them within the first minute of cardiac arrest live. And that's actually walking out of the hospital live. Even though we have great response times here in Joliet, a minute is just impossible. So the more public access AEDs we can have, the more lives we'll save. Last year we had 6 AEDs applied in the field from public places, and all 6 of the people lived. The year before that we had the same amount and only 1 parish. So the program works. The idea we had was that any business in town that either has an AED or is willing to purchase an AED, the fire department will come out to them and will train their entire staff for free. We'll come and do hands-on CPR and AED training for anybody who has an AED to try to encourage more businesses to buy them. They also have programs where we can, like when we do the project down here with the green space, you can get AED public access machines, almost like ATMs, where you can have them in public where people access them. We'll have them all register with dispatch, so when a 911 calls in, they'll know, dispatch will know exactly where they are. And And then, so to reach those people as quick as possible. So that was kind of the thing. It would be just an encouragement to the businesses to buy AEDs to help save more lives. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Did I forget anything else? Because I was going to say anything else, so good, thank you. All right, that concludes our report, Mayor. Thank you.
I show no other reports. Moving on to consent agenda, approval of the minutes. It's recommended the minutes of the pre-council meeting held on September 19, 2022, and the minutes of the council meeting held on September 20th, 2022 stand approved as recorded. Council Memo 499-22, award of contract for the purchase of ammonia analyzers for the West Side and Aux Sable wastewater treatment plants to Gasvoda Associates in the amount of $57,650. Council Memo 500-22, Amendment Number 1 to the professional services contract for the design, permitting, drafting for the Chicago Street Water Main Improvement Project to Civil Tech Engineering in the amount of $82,972.10. And Council Memo 501-22, Change Order Number 1 in the amount of $158,006.61 and final payout in the amount of $258,103.36 for the Essington Road and West Jefferson Street Interceptor Sewer Project to Len Cox and Sons Excavating. It's recommended Council Memos 499-22 through 501-22 be approved. Is there a motion to approve all said consent agenda items?
So move.
Second.
Been motion seconded to approve. Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Moving on under ordinances, Council Memo 503-22, an ordinance approving a vacation of portions of McKinley Avenue, Edward Street, and Lawton Avenue and adjacent alleys. It's recommended that ordinance be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Been motion and seconded to approve. Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is Council Memo 504-22, an ordinance amending Chapter 8, Article 1, Division 15, Section 8-152, Rental Registration Certificate Required Ordinance of the City of Joliet Code of Ordinances, amending rental inspection ordinance to include single-family rentals. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
So move.
Second.
In motion and seconded to approve, Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
I'd just like to say, regardless of the attempt to intimidate me tonight, as the landlord of a single-family unit, I was always going to recuse myself, and I do recuse myself from this vote.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Just a little comment before I cast my vote on this. I certainly believe that we need to have accountability from all of our landlords that are doing business in this city. To be able to identify them is great. So I am really hoping that this piece that we start will be able to do that. The one thing about it, and I don't want anybody to be disillusioned, this does not make your community safer. And I've heard some comments, it's going to make our neighborhood safer. No, it's not. So let's not delude ourselves from that. But I will vote aye on this resolution and want the city itself to do its job. Staff, we're going to have to step up and make sure that these are compliances are being met. The other thing I think we need to be looking at is how do we protect these renters? A lot of them are afraid to come forth. So I think rental protection of the renter needs a focus as well. But having said all of that, I do vote aye.
Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
A few, hopefully brief comments. I'm not going to be talking at length about the effectiveness of the proposed. Essentially, let's be clear, we're not changing the way we do inspections. We're just adding single family in with the rest of the multi-units.
That's all that's happening tonight. In this process, which I didn't necessarily pay a lot of attention to until it came back up again, and it's been going on, somebody told me, for 27 years. So I'm not here to challenge the effectiveness of it. I certainly found the video that the city manager played objectionable. I have to believe that the individual that lived there didn't walk through before they signed the lease and see those rats and then sign a year lease. I would have to think that when they first walked through, it was made to look better than it was, which would happen to the inspector as well. And then when they got in, if 2 weeks later they had that rat problem that we saw in the video, they still have to, what was the term somebody used, snitch. They'd still have to snitch or wait till another year for an inspection. So you see, it doesn't solve those problems across the board. It's not a one-size-fits-all. But I'm not here to debate that. So I talked to, and I thought I would only be able to relay this to everyone here, the council as well as those in the audience, as a secondhand story. But then we had 4 residents who rent single family that showed up and said exactly what the people in my district. I spoke to what I refer to as a baker's dozen of folks, even out far west. There's a lot of rentals after the great collapse of 2008 and the ongoing struggles over the last, almost 15 years. I have a rental single family right next to my house. It was vacant for 4 years. That's when it was a problem. I have another rental across the street, 2 houses up. Nice family. The husband is a fireman in Dixmoor. And then I talked to other folks, 3 more in the subdivision and 8 or 9 more throughout the city. And they all said, and this is what's missing from this ordinance and why I don't think I will support it. They all said what the one lady had said too. The one, I don't need the government in my home. I wrote that quote down. Having an inspection, there should be no option to the landlord. So let's set the landlords aside. But there is no option for full-grown adults like the 4 that spoke tonight to say, thank you, city, for caring so much, but we don't need you. We're fine. We've lived here for 2 years, 4 years, 8 years. We don't want you in our house. So if we need your help, we'll call you. We need that. That's the only way I can support that. I'm not going to debate anything else in the ordinance, the existing one, as well as adding the single family. Where's the choice that these adults should have? Not the landlords, the residents, the families. I think the good doctor that had come up there, I didn't catch the last name, I didn't write it down, said, don't treat renters different in a single family home than you do those that own it. Drive down my street and you couldn't tell the difference. This is America. Choice. So it's good to put together a program like that, but there needs to be an option for me if I rent from the mayor to say, no, I got a great landlord. I've lived here for 4 years. I don't want you in my house. Do a lot of people here love people traipsing through, strangers through the house? No, some don't mind and some do. But those that have no problem and really want to protect their privacy should have that option. So I vote no.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
It was asked last night by a couple of the individual presenters for us to explain our vote. That is not something I typically do, but I do think since being asked to do it, I'll be happy to do it. 1979 is a long time ago. There's been people on this council that have been working on this ordinance since I got on 7 years ago. As Terry mentioned, he's not happy with everything in the ordinance. I am not either. I can't agree with a number of the items in the ordinance. I don't know that we have the staff that we can handle this ordinance. Do we need safeguards? Do I believe that we need a single-family resident program? I do. But we have a program today that I'm not quite sure how well it's working. Based on all the individuals here, it doesn't sound like it's working very well. We were given a flow chart last night from, I believe it was Dr. Mark Wallace, that has a lot of good points to it. I hope staff can look at that and engage with a number of the realtors as well as the residents to iron out any serious issues with this program. With all of that said, being against it, I had many calls, many emails from people in my district. Obviously, I was elected to represent my district. My district wants it, and I have to vote yes.
Motion carried, 6-1, one abstention. Under resolutions, Council Memo 506-22, a resolution requesting authorization to enter into a regular 2022 Justice Assistance Grant intergovernmental agreement between the City of Joliet and Will County. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudron.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is Council Memo 507-22, a resolution supporting continued efforts to resolve public safety concerns with the Safety Act. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to direct everyone's attention back to resolution, or Council Memo 506-22, which was just passed, which clearly states that it is, that the mayor of the city of Joliet is hereby authorized and directed to accept the 2022 Justice Assistance Grant from the Bureau of Justice Assistance. It's a very clear, actionable item of what it is that we are resolved to do in this resolution. When we look at Council Memo 507-22, our Section 2 reads that the City of Joliet encourages legislators to work with public safety representatives and all community stakeholders to fix the remaining problems which are outlined in the rest of the section. I believe that the predicate of this statement here for the City of Joliet to encourage legislators is far too vague for us to be able to come with a reasonable conclusion about this. We're making the argument here that that there's an unreasonable limitation to the ability of law enforcement to carry out their duties, but I don't believe that basic premise upon which the rest of this argument rests has been proven. If we were to write this out as an expression of sort of modal reasoning, we'd get a very basic format: if A, therefore B, with A being our premise that there is unreasonable limitation through the imposition of cash bail, of police officer discretion, and so forth, and our conclusion being that we should encourage legislators to work with representatives to fix the remaining problems. However, we are expected to believe that that first premise, that these limitations are unreasonable, is to be true at face value, which I don't believe that we can accept without further proof. There's a burden of proof for the argumenter to demonstrate clearly that these limitations are unreasonable. And there's no reference here to the original Safety Act, which is in question. And so I don't believe that we have demonstrated that these limitations are unreasonable. And so the base premise of the argument doesn't hold, and therefore I feel that the rest of the argument is invalid. Again, I'm not arguing the facts of the case. I'm not arguing for or against the Safety Act at this moment. At this moment, the only thing that I am arguing is that this resolution, as is written, cannot be supported, and that it is not reasonably sound.
Well, I'll answer my perspective. I absolutely think it could be supported. I don't know if it goes far enough. There were some comments, there were a number of comments made on both sides of the issue that I think were accurate. I don't have the name, I couldn't understand. I think the man identified himself as Phonics, made an observation about cash bail that is correct. It should not be punitive. Bail is set to ensure that the defendant appear in court. If they don't, they forfeit the money that they post for bail. So there are issues with the current criminal justice system. I think anybody involved would acknowledge that. But the Safety Act isn't about cash bail. It's 764 pages. If that was all that was being addressed, it wouldn't be nearly as controversial. You wouldn't see 100 of 102 state's attorneys throughout the state of Illinois come out and condemn this. Chief, I don't know of one police chief that's in favor of this. You could speak on it now if you'd like to. I'll give you the floor.
the points you just made. It's 769 pages long. It's very complex. There is not a police chief that I'm aware of any place in the state of Illinois that supports this measure.
I know practically every judge at the Will County Courthouse. I don't know one judge, Democrat or Republican, that supports this bill. I know our Democrat state's attorney has come out and condemned it. I know the Republican judge who is the primary judge for the felony call has come out and condemned it. So again, Ms. Bell, you spoke about bring your own experiences. Well, I've been in the criminal justice system involved for 29 years as a police officer, as a prosecutor, and as a criminal defense attorney. And my experiences tell me that this bill is a disaster for our community. The number one goal of local government or any form of government is to protect its citizens, protect people, and protect private property. This bill, as it stands, will make our residents less safe, will make our community less safe. It's untenable for me. So I've seen enough, I've read enough, I've heard enough, and I use my life experiences to come to those conclusions. Certainly, there's parts of the bill that have merit, but overall it does not, and it needs to be stopped by our legislature. And I think this council taking a proactive position and urging our General Assembly to take another look at this is a positive step. I will say prior to the meeting, and Mr. City Manager, I know you can concur, other cities have reached out to Joliet. They want to follow in our lead. So I'm proud that we're being leaders on this. Of course, our other elected officials have come out. Excuse me. But yeah, I certainly have seen enough. I understand your argument about ambiguities in our ordinance, and maybe that should be cleaned up as we move along. But my mind is clear on what's best for our community, and the Safety Act does not serve our residents.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Again, I'm not here to, at this moment, argue the merits of the Safety Act or not. I want to stay focused simply on the resolution as it's presented to us. What then does it mean for the city of Joliet to encourage legislators? What is the scope of that? Because I believe that everybody here, any of my colleagues who are in favor of this resolution, certainly are within their right to send a letter to the governor's office, send a letter to our legislators. But what does that mean for the city of Joliet as a whole to encourage these legislators to follow through with this resolution? Who has that discretion? Who has that authority to limit what that actually is?
Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, can I? I'll field this. Thank you. First of all, I'm not an attorney. Most of us up here in this room are not. There may be somebody out there I'm not aware of. The ambiguity you refer to only remains if you haven't read the nearly 800 pages. Granted, the majority of people, maybe even the majority of the council members, haven't read the entire nearly 800 pages. If you read it, these statements are no longer ambiguous and you understand it fully. Now you've got a choice to say whether, and I didn't interrupt you,
Go ahead.
Thank you, whether or not you agree or not. The fact that this council, if it does, passes with a majority vote, this resolution, that is a siren call to people to read it. Don't just take our word for it, read it. And as far as encouraging, you can encourage, you're correct, Councilman, with a phone call, with an email. Maybe they'll get back to you, maybe they won't, right? You can encourage. We are no more special than every person out there. They can communicate to the state reps and the state senators as well.
Absolutely.
This is only a formalization of what's done privately in emails. This is not an issue, I don't like any issue, that's privately done in a back room, typed on it. We are telling them point blank, as a community, if we pass it, we do not agree with the brunt of this bill. Certainly stop it and rework it. Keep the parts that there's a consensus are effective, but get rid of the overwhelming portions that are counterproductive or dangerous. So that's why it's not ambiguous. It's ambiguous to someone who hasn't read the entire bill.
Councilman, I think if I may respond here, my issue with the ambiguity here is specifically what we are doing. The city of Joliet encourages. As I said in the previous resolution, it's very clear what that resolution is: authorizing and directing to accept this grant from the Bureau of Justice. In this council memo, I don't believe that that's very clear what it is what it means to encourage legislators. And for that reason, I can't support this resolution as it is written, because what's to stop whoever's acting as a representative of the city of Joliet on behalf of this memo to essentially have free reign with the dialogue that's going on here. You said that this resolution, if passes, would suggest that we as a community are opposed to this to the Safety Act, when we heard from several people today that they are actually in favor of it. And so I don't think it would be right to send a message that we as a community are opposed to the brunt of this bill if that's not the case. How can we encourage our legislators to work with all community stakeholders when I don't believe that we ourselves have worked with all of the community stakeholders within the city? Have we heard input from from social workers who are working with victims of these crimes? Have we heard from victims of these crimes themselves? Have we heard from any sort of program managers who are working on rehabilitation? So I don't believe that we ourselves have included all community stakeholders, and therefore I don't see how we could then make a statement to encourage our legislators to include all community stakeholders.
Councilman, every vote we take, every vote you take, is saying that this is what the community will do and must follow. That's why you were elected. When you vote against it, you go against the grain. I've been known once or twice to go against the grain. But as far as community stakeholders, I like that term. I've gotten dozens, probably over 100 emails and calls, texts from people in my district and other parts of the city, but predominantly my district, who some have read it, some, as obvious, haven't read it or even perused it, right? They're the biggest stakeholders at the table. Not some specialist that you want to, bring in here and give me a speech and school me. It's the residents that are the stakeholders. So yes, we do respond to what the residents. Now, if the residents haven't called you, I can't explain that.
I would say by that same reasoning, if I shouldn't be one to bring in specialists, then we can't cherry pick testimonies from specialists who are who are in favor of this line of thinking. I think to say that we have to rule out the input of community stakeholders that I just mentioned would necessarily dictate that we would also have to rule out the input of specialists such as the attorney generals who have spoken against this.
The two of them, correct.
Or who have spoken in favor of something like this resolution is what I mean.
Councilman, I appreciate your argument. Our state's attorney came out against it. He represents Will County. I don't think anyone suggested that his opinion is everyone in Will County's opinion. He spoke on behalf of his office and his elected position. We're going to do the same here tonight. Certainly, I understand, we've heard, there's people in our community that may have a different opinion than I do. But as mayor, again, I was elected to be a leader and to give my voice, certainly to represent the community. I believe I'm doing that tonight. Obviously, you do too, and we don't agree. So, but I don't think there's anything improper or wrong about this body taking this action.
Motion to approve.
Second vote.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve Council Memo 507-22, a resolution supporting continued efforts to resolve public safety concerns with the Safety Act. Councilman Clement?
If, Councilman Guerrero, I respect all your comments there. I was listening to you. I strongly agree with what Councilman Hug and the mayor have said, and I strongly support this resolution, so I'll vote aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Yes, to my colleague, Councilman Guerrero, I hear what you're saying, and I feel what you're saying. That's why I thought that we could keep this off of the agenda. But there's a lot that is going on with this bill. And I think a lot of things that are being covered in this bill that no one wants to really address. But they rather would gaslight the fact that, putting that fear into people. So, with that, this bill here needs a lot more attention. And I hope that our legislators, our state legislators are listening, because I know what you're trying to hide. And the people will know it too pretty soon. So I have read the bill, all of the pages, and even though I agree with portions of it, there are some portions that are being gaslighted out of this thing, and it's not fair to the residents. So I will stick with my first. I vote no.
Councilman Guerrero.
The Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority has the full text of the bill listed on their website, as well as some interesting notes on it. So certainly, I think that's one thing we can agree on, Councilman, is that we should encourage people to read through the legislation and determine for themselves. But I feel that the points of my argument have not been sufficiently addressed, and so I will have to vote no.
Councilman Hug.
Councilman Guerrero, I agree with you 100%. Both of us are encouraging everybody to read the bills, and I encourage adults to be allowed to make their own choices and come to their own opinions if they've in fact read it, so I agree. I also agree with you, believe it or not, that I don't know who wrote the resolution, but it's more ambiguous than if I'd written it. I think that the resolution, really what it's trying to say, to put it in shorthand, is there's some good parts of this bill, not many. Overall, the bill's pretty damn bad. Rework it. That's really what it's saying. We're telling them as an elected body that rework it, keep the good and rework it. So you are right. It was a little sugar-coated, wasn't it? A little ambiguous. So with that, I'll vote aye.
Councilman Morris.
No.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
That bill was presented to our legislatures and practically in the middle of the night. They've been there in session for a long time. They were extremely tired, and it was pushed through, and they voted for it without reading it in its entirety. You cannot possibly read something 700 plus pages in that short period of time when it's presented to them. So half of them didn't, the majority, I don't believe, knew what was in there. They just went along with it and voted aye. As the wife of a retired police officer and always supportive of this police department and our citizens, I would have to vote absolutely aye. Is there stuff that can be fixed? Absolutely. It needs to be tweaked, but as it stands, I cannot support it. Again, I vote aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Motion carried 5-3. Next is the city manager's report.
I've already spoken this evening, so I think I've said enough. Thank you.
New business not for final action or recommendation.
Joe? Betty?
No.
Caesar? No. Larry?
I just wanted to say happy Thanksgiving. Oh, it's not, the meeting was so long, I thought it was Thanksgiving.
Terry? Pat? Jan?
No.
Sherry? I have nothing.
Next is public comments. First is Patricia Mead.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and the council. Thank you for having us. I am Patricia Mead, Sherman Street, Joliet, Illinois. RN, 35 years. Ascension St. Joseph Medical Center. We are a nursing body that is under siege and under attack. And therefore, I do say, have two nurses standing beside me that will speak to the issues that are at hand. And therefore, we're bringing this to you to hear your ear, to have your ear, hopefully your support, and help us with some type of intercession in this, with what we're going through right now. So.
Hi, my name is Emily Anderson. I'm actually from Minooka, but I serve this community. I've been working at St. Joe's for the past 8 years. I know a lot of this community has noticed over the past 10 years, we've been changing hands a lot, constantly being bought out by new corporations. We started out as a 420 bed hospital, and we are now 250. We're noticing a trend of our beds getting cut. Over the past 5 years, we've lost 9 neuro ICU beds, 32 medical beds, which I was a part of that unit that got closed and had to find a new job within the hospital. Currently, they're trying to merge 2 different units at the hospital, which will eliminate another 30 beds. We don't understand why we're one of the largest cities in the state and our beds are getting cut. We started at 850 nurses and we went down to 615 in the past 4 years. Our labor rep For management, Haley Harris will not give us any answers of why we're not getting any increases in pay. They're saying that the hospital can't increase our wage scale at their level. So we're here today. We need elected representatives to call a meeting with our hospital board, decision makers, elected union leadership, and floor nurses so we can get to the bottom of this. Why are we closing units? Why are we eliminating beds? Why do we not care enough to increase the wage scale to be a competitive wage scale in the community? We have been left to fend for ourselves. It's me and 2 other nurses. We're speaking up, even with fear of retaliation. We're one of the only Ascension, Illinois hospitals that's a union. From July to September of this year, we have lost 42 RNs, and we have only replaced 15. We want to provide competent care for this community, and we need our elected officials to help us call a meeting with the hospitals to get to the bottom of why we're eliminating beds for our growing community.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm very short. Hi, my name is Beth Hanna. I am a nurse at Ascension as well. I've been there 10 years, and I am currently actually transitioning to leave the hospital to go to a different one. My last day will be October 14th. In the last 3 months, in the last month, we've lost 3 nurses just from my unit alone. We are wondering what or why the administration has keep blaming the union for the lack of the competitive wage scale with the other hospitals in the area. They are claiming that they are blaming the union, and the union is saying that's not really true. Our contract has a minimum wage scale, but not a maximum. They are perfectly able to increase it, but they are not. They are telling us that the person that is responsible for that is not within our hospital, but they will not give us the name of someone who is able to do that. Also, they're claiming that they don't really have the money. I don't understand that either. They're a $1 billion company. They're the 2nd largest healthcare system in the country. Also, Chris Scheid, who I believe is the president of the Ascension, Illinois, wants to build a heart hospital within our hospital. It's going to cost $6 million. I'm wondering how he's going to staff that if he doesn't increase our wage scale to attract more nurses to the hospital and retain the nurses that are there. I feel like we've had a mass exodus in the last 4 years. COVID did not help, that is obvious. I think that happened in a lot of other hospitals as well. The hospital that I'm going to is a smaller community hospital, and their wage scale is way more. I'm making $6.50 more an hour. That is huge. I don't understand why they're doing this. I feel like they're really not supporting their nurses. They've cut the nurses, and they've cut the beds, and in doing that, they've also cut not just the nurses, but all across all the other ancillaries as well. So you're losing jobs for Joliet, and this is your community hospital. The care is not the quality care that it should be because we do not have the resources to do that. And my family goes there, your families go there. It's just not moving in the right direction. So we're begging you to please try and intervene, have contact with some of the administration, and see if there's anything that you guys might be able to do to figure out why this is happening and what they're doing. Thank you very much, Mayor and Councilman.
Thank you.
And women, thank you.
One last note. The main concern right now is with this merger is there is an education piece missing. We have fought for and with them about this merger for the last 3 months. We said we must have an educational system in place, those nurses be trained and ready to go. This is not, you do not merge a neuro and a cardiac unit and you learn on the job. You are doing drips, you're moving stents. On the other end, you're people with brain injuries. These are instantaneous assessments that need to be done. And you need to know what you're looking at and be specific and treat on time and who to call and when to call. This is huge for us. Our nurses, we are short. We're already working short. They try to ensure us that if we, once they merge, we won't make you take this patient if you don't feel comfortable. And if you're already short, you're not going to tell me that you're not going to have a nurse take care of a patient that has not been trained sufficiently. They're talking about, you'll have a partner, you walk with them, you learn. You can't learn this on the job. This is critical care nursing. These nurses are fearing for people's lives and their jobs and their licenses. People come to the hospital to get better. That's what we're fighting to do. You may not like a union. We may not like it all the time, but that's the reason we need someone to fight for us when we have exhausted all avenues in simply attempting to give safe patient care to our patients. And I want to thank you, gentlemen, the mayor and the council here for listening to us. Trust me, we've exhausted every avenue, and we're at a dead halt. It's going live. When is it going live?
October 19th.
October 19th, going live. We're not ready.
Mayor, may I ask her a question?
Yes.
Where is your union on this? Why are they not representing you?
They are representing us. They have been at the meetings. I'm on the board. We have met with them, and we have fought for 3 months to put an educational process in place and asked that this pushed back. We've asked, why is there such a rush to get this done when we're not ready? And they keep saying that, keep talking about, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we're gonna get the program ready. We're working with our instructors and getting things done. And if you haven't dealt with Ascension, that's it. They listen, but there's always a pushback. So you're waiting constantly with bated breath, waiting for something to happen, transpire, and it never happens. So now we stand before you right now as a last desperate ditch effort.
So administration is blaming the unions for this disaster.
The administration is blaming the union for everything.
For everything, of course. And I know exactly what you're saying. I left the nursing field 6 years ago. You're overworked, you're underpaid, you don't get your breaks, you don't get lunch. And you're absolutely right, this is critical. If they're gonna bring this type of merger, neuro and cardiac, you need highly trained cardiac care and neuro care nurses. You can't just expect a floor nurse or a neonatal nurse to come on board and do that. This is absolutely ridiculous. So I'm totally on your side, so I'm gonna do whatever I can to help you.
Thank you. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, and they don't want to pay us for hours worked. We are now fighting with the Attorney General and the Illinois Department of Labor, who is now talking about doing a class action suit with the Federal Labor Department because they're finding some type of a reason. How can you have people work over and above their scheduled FTEs and then not pay them incentive pay? Or then declassify that and say, oh no, we didn't prove that, we're not going to pay that. Or they don't pay on time. They mess up your paycheck all the time.
I've heard your paychecks have been messed up for quite some time.
Yes. And what do
Can't
they
get it
do?
right.
They wait till they owe you so many weeks of pay, and then they put it all on your check. Now, all those extra days you worked and hours you worked, they are gone because Uncle Sam now has that money, not you. And all the weeks that you had to go without money. My bill collector is still looking for their checks.
Yeah, I understand, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. I'm gonna call you tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for listening. Jim Lanham.
I'd like to thank the council for your vote on the resolution tonight, even the no votes. You stood up and voted for what you believed in. That took a lot of courage. So going forward, let's all try and figure this out and get this Safety Act right. It'll go a long way to helping law-abiding citizens and victims from becoming victims again. Also consider what I've always said when I come up here talking about different issues. Vote. The people in front of me, the people behind me, whatever your side is in this issue, get out there and vote in November. Remember who voted for this Safety Act? Larry Walsh Jr., Natalie Manley. They did it with zero input from all of us, for or against it. I think they just blindly voted. The upcoming elections, state senate, state representative, attorney general, governor. Several people that spoke up here tonight are current candidates for those offices. Do your research, look up their names, where they live, where you live, and do some research and vote for them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Donna Russell.
She left.
Scott Green.
My name is Scott Green. Live in Elwood. My family and I shop in Joliet. We dine in Joliet, and we attend church in Joliet. I come up here and I want to say thank you to the mayor and to the council for taking a stand against the Safety Act. 100 out of 102 state's attorneys have come out against this Safety Act. I would say it's probably not gaslighting. I would say there's probably a few things in that bill that has made our community less safe. So I want to thank you for taking a stand for Joliet, for a safe community, because I believe everyone deserves a safe community. And as Mr. Lanham said, we need to remember November 8th who voted for this Safety Act. Larry Walsh Jr. has voted for this Safety Act. There's no way he read it in 45 minutes when it was presented to him. There is no way that he knows what was completely in that bill. I've also heard that he was invited to attend a private meeting and he was a no-show. That's Larry Walsh Jr. is a no-show for the community of Joliet, for the 86th district, for the police officers, for the prosecution, and even for the victims. And I would even say, even for those that may be incarcerated. This bill is everything on the line for everyone involved. Again, my name is Scott Green. I am running for state representative in the 86th district against Larry Walsh Jr. And my message has been simple and clear from the very beginning, that faith, family, and freedom are on the line. Thank you and have a great night. Thank you.
Robin Anderson.
Hi, everybody. I'm pretty sure, I hope so, that y'all remember me. I ain't crying no more, and I don't got nothing to say but this. I was told that they were gonna open the investigation again about my daughter being killed, but since she's been poisoned with fentanyl, on June 8th, you had a total of 8 fentanyl overdoses here in Will County. The morgue was overfilled with fentanyl overdoses. I demand the arrest of Kenneth Little. He has 10 aliases. His name is Black. He's responsible for Terrence Pierce.
Speak in the microphone, please, ma'am. They can't
Do
hear
I
you.
have to?
Well, they can't hear you on TV if you don't.
Okay, I demand the arrest of Kenneth Little. He has a lot of deaths under his belt with the fentanyl overdoses. He has 10 aliases, but the one that he goes by is Black, and he lives there. Terrence Pierce was poisoned and bought fentanyl and cocaine from him. My daughter found no clothes, still not found. They didn't. They said they were gonna open the investigation, but they played with my intelligence by telling me we can't question Kenneth Little again. He was the name on the deed. He was the man that resided there, and he was the only person in the apartment when they came. No, he wasn't even there. She was there, but you told me, well, not you per se, but the law enforcement said, oh, we can't question him again because it's harassing him. We can only question him when they did the day of the incident. How? My daughter is dead. She is dead, and she ain't never coming back, and you worried about questioning Kenneth Little again. But you opened an investigation. He is a career criminal. His felonies go back to 1986, 1987. Felonies, manufacturing drugs, selling drugs, possession of drugs 1,000 feet from a school. I've investigated. And not only that, Deputy Chief Madlock, wow, he lives in that senior citizen building. How can taxpayers be paying for this man's salary as a law enforcement agency, and he's also living in the senior citizen home? It's not because he's protecting us. It's because I don't understand why. I need to give the people of Joliet and the people of Will County a thing. And in Will County, there is a statute, I think it's 401, when it's called drug-induced homicide, and you go to a scene and you classify that. But with my daughter being found butt naked, legs wide open, no shoes, no shirt, no socks, no panties, and I listened to the 911 call. And it's horrible. I demand y'all to arrest him. And as long as you don't do nothing, and you got all the evidence you need, it might appear to be circumstantial, but you give it to the people of 12. You don't judge it. I demand his arrest. Because as long as you don't do something about people drugging our system, Anthony Williams, I have his phone. He died July 28th, 2021, 16 days after my daughter. This is Black, call me. I have drugs for you. I have this in my phone and on his phone. Guess when Anthony Williams was found OD'd of fentanyl and cocaine, and he bought the drugs from Black. Your own statue, your own thing. Terrence bought drugs from Kenneth Little. I demanded the rest of them. I ain't going away. It's been a year, and I'm never, ever, ever going away. I'm gonna find somebody over you guys.
Doris Jones.
I'm never going away. She's not here. I'm not going away.
Amber Norris.
My name is Amber Norris. I was born and raised in Joliet, Illinois. While you all are up here talking about this Safety Act, let me tell you something. My uncle, Terrence Pierce, was murdered in Evergreen Apartments by what would be called a drug-induced homicide. His drugs were laced by fentanyl. He was then dragged into a hallway in the building of 419 Bluff on the second floor by a tenant or someone they knew. No one has been arrested, and multiple people have died in or and around Evergreen area. Yet those buildings still stand, and I understand there's nowhere for those people to go. But there is something this city of Joliet can do. They can increase police patrols and patrol the halls of those buildings. During the investigation, our family asked about the cameras that are in those halls, and we were told the cameras on floor 2 were broken. How is it that Joliet residents have to pay taxes for public housing, and public housing is not kept up? Cameras were placed in those halls to keep people safe. But how can those cameras protect people and prevent more deaths if maintenance ain't even done? The moment that camera was out, it should have been fixed. And council need to be doing something about those buildings.
Thank you.
Carl Farrell.
How you doing, Council? So tonight we heard some very interesting language that was used. We heard Councilman Guerrero get told that he was going against the grain if he didn't vote with the other councilmen. That's pretty intimidating. Being part of a democracy and an elected official who represents the people, you have the right. You were elected to use your voice how you want to use it, you know? Not even so much how you want to use it. You have your right to use your voice to represent the people who elected you, right? So that comment was kind of, a little out of pocket. And I'm saying this, I'm an elected official myself, so I know. Mayor Bob, you spoke about public safety and things dealing with public safety. So my question to you is, we had a situation in 2020 where the mayor of our city put his hands, assaulted two people who got further assaulted. One of them ended up in the hospital, right? And it wasn't even a gentleman's quarrel, because as an elected official, if someone puts their hands on you, they get charged feloniously, right? So with that happening to those young men and the situation that followed,
Yeah, I know everything that happened after the sealed indictment and everything, and the settlement, right? Whose safety was being represented at that time? What community safety was being taken in consideration at that time? Because those two boys look like me. They come from my community. Their safety wasn't being represented. Their safety wasn't cared about when the officers beat them, put them in the hospital, right? And then they were charged with a felony on top of that. So what happens in Joliet right now, the Attorney General is still here investigating policies and practices of the police. There's a lot of times where the democracy of this town steps outside of democracy. This town is more of an oligarchy. It's controlled by the dollars of a few individuals in a very tight circle. And I see what's going on. And when more of the community sees what's going on, instead of being told that something is wrong for them, and they taking the word of the people they elected, right? Because they elected you to put you in that position to lead and be their voice. But when you take that and you run with it, that's not real leadership. So I don't see that. I don't see leadership by telling somebody else that's on a council with you that they're going against the grain because they're speaking out about something. Officer Javier, he spoke out. He spoke out in this same city, and he's the only officer involved with that situation that has felony charges. He's the only officer whose life was altered for a situation that he spoke out against. For whatever reason, he spoke out. He spoke out. He did what was right. He brought something to the light. So I'm saying, is that how things are going to continue to go in the city of Joliet? I think it's time for the community to understand, you know what I'm saying, all of the gaslighting, even with the situations, even with the 50522, I think it was 505, dealing with the tenants and the landlords, everything runs downhill. It rolls downhill to the people at the bottom. So if the tenants are getting coerced into saying that something isn't good for them because their landlord is telling them that we're going to make your financial situation, you know what I'm saying, harder, then that's not a democracy. That's not true leadership. That's intimidation and fear tactics. That's gaslighting at its finest.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I just wish the people of Joliet would wake up though and see what's going on.
Doug Casper.
Okay, my name is Doug Casper. I live here in Joliet, and I'm here representing the Nonviolent City Project. And we come in today with a few of our steering committee members. One of the things first I'd like to mention is our respect and our appreciation for the city council here and your dedication to keeping our city safe and well. So we come in today, we have over 300 people that signed on to our mission statement. And we come in a little bit disappointed that we were not able to get on the agenda here today. But we will keep on trying. So we thought we would read our mission statement and vision statement.
Our vision statement is short. We have 5 different points. The mission statement of Nonviolent Cities Project.
I'm sorry, this is one speaker? Are you?
Well, we're together.
Okay, there's a 4-minute time limit. Should we do it individually? Is that how you want to do this?
Yeah, so we can each have a certain amount of minutes.
Right. Okay, go ahead. Okay, identify your name and address for the record.
I am Patrick Riley from 1209 West Acres here in Joliet.
Thank you.
The mission of our project, Joliet Nonviolent Cities, is to mobilize and envision a Joliet free from violence in all its forms, to redirect funds and invest in education, training, and development programs, to increase awareness and engagement in nonviolent policies and practices, to bring together local community organizations and individuals that are committed to a society with a balance of prosperity, security, justice, and hope. And finally, to dismantle the structures and systems that lead to violence throughout Joliet and beyond.
Good evening, my name is Maria A. Rosa, 621 Plainfield Road here in Joliet, and I will read the vision statement. As concerned citizens of Joliet, surrounding communities, and other cities everywhere, we join this national project, the Campaign Non-City Violence Project, working with Peace E-Bini, Paxi Beni, independent, non-denominational 501c3 organization, and it's committed to spreading the power of active nonviolence. Joliet is considered a crossroads of Mid-America and the third largest city in Illinois. As of such a significant city, Joliet would serve as a model to foster a culture of peace and the well-being of all. This has been done in more than 50 cities across the United States by building a caring relationship among all people within the community through the education, resources, and action, plus incentives with nonviolence change.
Let me just briefly mention a couple of, the lady that came up just ahead of me, Robin Dawson, she lost her daughter here, and, she's still grieving about it, and from the violence. And I want to kind of bring your memory back of, as a few weeks ago, about this time in the council meeting, that man got up and just poured his heart out because his 17-year-old son was murdered here in Joliet. And I just feel these people are just crying out and saying, do something. We got to do something about the violence. There's way too much violence. Well, here we are, the Nonviolent City Project. So, I propose this proclamation. Whereas the citizens of Joliet are committed to foster a culture of peace and nonviolence through education, sustainable economic and social development, a clean environment, and racial, gender, and intergenerational justice. And whereas the citizens of Joliet desire to promote human rights, advance understanding, tolerance, and solidarity, and support participation, communication, and the free flow of information. And whereas the citizens, community leaders, civic and faith organizations, and political leaders of Joliet are committed to creating and implementing initiatives that not only foster peace and nonviolence, but also create a positive and lasting change in our community. And whereas the city of Joliet believes that all segments of our city deserve inclusion in planning actions, resource allocations, nonviolent training, restorative justice practices, and budgetary priorities. And whereas the city of Joliet is committed to the rejection of violence, poverty, injustice, and environmental degradation, in conjunction with the Paxi Beni Campaign Nonviolent City Project, resolved that the mayor and city council, representing the citizens of Joliet, the police and fire departments, community development, school superintendents, principals, teachers, professors, city managers, human resources, neighborhood services, planning and zoning, business owners, church leaders and families, young and old, proclaim the city of Joliet a nonviolent city. Resolved that the mayor and city council support the United Nations resolution designating September 21st as the International Day of Peace, and so designate September 21st of each year henceforth as a day of peace.
Sorry,
The city of Joliet.
Sir?
In the month of
Excuse me.
September. I'm almost done, I got one line.
All right, please. Thank you. No, go ahead, finish up.
Okay, finish up. Okay, so empower the policies establishing regional peace and nonviolence.
Thank you.
Okay, hopefully we can get on the agenda shortly and come to a conclusion one way or another. The other
Thank you.
thing that we're trying to do is we're still trying to promote putting a peace pole here in Joliet.
Kristen.
Is there anyone else?
City property, in the properties here. Okay.
Yes.
Christy McNichol, I think, just stepped out, but I think it might be appropriate, as was suggested before, to come to the Diversity and Community Relations Committee. So I believe she's still here, right outside.
She's a city employee.
Yeah, we've been trying to do that. It seems like we've probably been going in circles a little bit. But I appreciate it. And,
Thank you.
Again, respect and our appreciation to what you do here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Ooh, some things never change, huh? Y'all still tasked with making the tough decisions. So, I mean, granted that y'all are all never going to be able to make everybody happy. Y'all tasked with some tough decisions. That's just what it is. It's the nature of people. So you got to try to make the best decisions you can. However, to tell another colleague that he's going against the grain for his personal thoughts, I mean, I definitely don't agree with it. It's inappropriate. Because some months ago, if I remember correct, police department was threatening you, calling you a scumbag, and you took offense to it because they felt like you were going against the grain. I have yet to see any one of y'all take a stance and say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna run a campaign and say we're gonna tackle police corruption and political corruption. So while y'all saying you want to protect the people of Joliet, who gonna protect the people from police corruption and political corruption? So I dare any one of y'all to run a campaign based on that and see how far you get. That's all I got for you.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak under public comments?
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Reese, and I have a very short statement. My concern, I try to bring this in a different way, so I was suggested to come here. This is my first time here, so I didn't know what to expect. So I'm glad I got a lot of information out of this. So I really wanted to just address an issue that is very concerning to me. And hopefully you take that into consideration and something can be done about it. I think Joliet is a great city. And excuse my English, I mean, I've learned by myself, so excuse. We have somebody who speaks Spanish. Hopefully if something is not well understood, maybe somebody can help us translate.
Sí, claro.
Thank you. Okay. So the issue that I have, it's about, we all believe that city of Joliet is a beautiful city and it has, like very good residents. So my concern is about things that we bring into Joliet, things that are dangerous in a way, probably not directly, but indirectly. So I'm a Catholic, and I'm here just to express this concern. It's about an event that is being held or scheduled for October 15 at the Forge, right here at the Joliet downtown. This event, I don't know if you know, hopefully you do, but if you don't, this event is not good. This event features a metal band that uses a desecrated icon of Jesus Christ displayed in an upside down crosses and more religious and objects or icons. This image is to promote their tour or their current, tour. They call it pilgrimage or pilgrimage. And as their website states, their music is drenched in imaginary and text from Eastern Orthodox Christianity, with the lyrics of song exclusively in Old Church Slavonic, and so on. Translators have claimed that the band embeds in Judeo-Christian linguistic just to perform under reflecting on themselves, not into God. And I have the website here for their own, the Forge. That's their website, they have that information. Those perversion of things that are sacred to our faith, advertised to the general public, constitute a hateful and offensive speech toward a religion. And not just Christianity, to all Christianity, not just Catholics. And I ask why such events are promoted with little opposition when similarly offensive content toward other religions will be considered in a very poor taste. I ask you, if you please, consider this and cancel this event, even though it might not happen, but it will not show a very good taste of Joliet. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Andrew Chemers, 500 Cornelia Street. I'll keep it quick. I'm doing this now because I can tell you guys are going to run out of here faster than anyone can think of. Thank you for taking or returning my calls involving the single-family rental inspection program and voting in favor.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Seeing none, next is mayor and council comments.
Joe?
Mayor, I know you're going to talk about the firefighter of the year in the private library. Yesterday I did have the occasion to go to the Park District. They opened up at Inwood hole number 2, which is under reservation. So I just want to congratulate them on a nice project over there. So,
thank you. Betty?
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity for me to thank the 501c3 organizations with the food pantries. All of us have seen the numbers start to tick back up with the state of the economy right now. But the one thing I can say, and I can really thank those other organizations that are making food available, even if we're in these food deserts, the residents are getting the food that they need. So my hat's off to all of the pantries in town that are on their jobs. You were able to pivot during the pandemic, and we still serve families. And so my hat is off to you for that. And just a quick note to Chief Evans and Deputy Chief Balsam of the fire department. I had an opportunity to meet with Chief John Drake of the Nashville Police Department. And they have some programs that they're initiating. I heard one said the connection with the homeless. The police department has an excellent program that they're rolling out, which is building that community trust with the homeless population, as well as finding resources with the other agencies, such as the fire department. I have his contact number, Chief Evans. If you got a moment, I will send you that. You can reach out to Chief Drake down in Nashville. It's an awesome piece that they're doing. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Caesar?
It's very briefly, for the number of split votes that occurred tonight, I hope for our friends in the media, you don't take that to mean it is to be a sign of a divided and sort of dysfunctional council, when in reality, these sorts of disagreements do happen. And I appreciate my colleagues here for, I think, keeping otherwise level heads. And I respect that we can have this sort of discussion, which is not a sign of weakness, but rather a sign of a robust democracy. So we are certainly going to disagree again at some point in the future, but I'm glad that we can have these discussions. That's all.
Thank you. Larry?
Nothing.
Terry? Pat?
I think, as was already mentioned, the library had its re-grand opening, as well as on the fireman group, I guess I would say, if you're talking about it, Mayor, congratulate them. That's it.
Jan?
Yes, congratulations to the fire department. I attended that luncheon today, as well as Councilwoman Reardon, Clement, and Pat Mudron. And you were there, Mayor, but then you had to leave. So it was quite the rescue that they did. So congratulations to those firefighters. I also want you to continue to keep Brother Aaron Bossage in your prayers. We got a long haul here, but the fire department needs him back as our chaplain, and we all need him as well. Wonderful man. And I want to thank my colleagues that voted for the single-family rental. It was a long time coming. Is it perfect? No, but it will be perfect, and staff has assured me that they will work on this, and we'll get it done. And we'll get it done, and as we go along with any new thing, it's going to have to be tweaked here and there. So thank you to all, and I agree with Councilman Guerrero. We're always going to agree to disagree, but that's okay. That's the nature of the beast, if you will, or the nature of council or any government body. You're not always all going to agree. So I wish you all well, good health, and that's all I have to say.
Sure.
I just want to say my thoughts and prayers go out to all the people who are utterly devastated by the hurricane, the loss of life, the loss of property. We have quite a Joliet community down in that area, so there's a lot of friends and family that we all know that have lost a lot, and hopefully not their lives. So our thoughts and prayers.
Okay, I have a number of items. I'll go through them as quick as I can. September 21st, Joliet Police Department did a press conference. Chief Evans, thank you. Congratulations for the PPP loan fraud investigation that you brought or helped bring forward here in Joliet. Good work to you and the police department, the detectives involved in that. September 24th, there was a walk to end Alzheimer's in the Harris parking lot. Thank you to the Harris people and the people who volunteered for that event. The day before at the Joliet Public Library, Councilman Mudron, you were there. Councilwoman Quillman was there. Councilman Clement and former Councilman Turk for the grand opening of the library. Congratulations to them. Also on the 24th, the Tunes and Brews Festival in downtown Joliet took place. Another good summer festival. We're almost at the end of them, but thank you to the organizers and the people who came out for that. On the 26th, I was at the fire department for swearing in of 2 new Joliet firefighters. So thank you, Chief Carey, for getting us there for that. On the 28th, the Brats Bourbon and Brews event was held at the Jacob Henry Mansion. That was a fundraiser for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum, not the Hall of Fame, the museum here in Joliet. It was well attended. Thank you for everyone who came out to support that. On the 30th, last Friday, I was invited to Joliet Junior College. I did a class with Professor J.B. DeVitro. Great group of young people, and apparently I'm going to be invited back for a larger group, but thank you, Professor DeVitro. Last Saturday, the Panic at the Plaza, again, another downtown Joliet event that was well attended. Thank you to the organizers and people who came out for that. On Sunday, I was invited briefly to speak at St. John's MB Church by Pastor Brooks in support of a local youth who's an excellent nationally recognized boxer. He's been in front of us before. Jojo, I can't pronounce his last name, no one can, but he'll be in front of us again. And then finally, on Sunday, the Slovenian Grape Harvest Fest at Rivals Park. Beautiful day, it was a great event. The Slovenian Council General was here in Joliet to help celebrate. Quinn, the address of the house on Elizabeth, it's 1004, is that correct? 1314 Elizabeth. This is the house, the council may remember, that was donated. It came to us, donated to the Historical Museum. I got a chance to tour it. It isn't open to the public yet, but it's really fascinating. The museum did a great job with that house. I think a lot of people in Joliet are really going to appreciate the efforts that the owners and that in conjunction with the museum have done. But congratulations to you guys and to the organizers for the Slovenian Grape Harvest Fest. That's all I have. Again, I do agree. I think debate is healthy and good. And I think the public comments were good tonight. It's not always the case, but I think a lot of people on both sides of these contested issues made good points. So thank you. Let's have a good couple weeks.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Motion seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We adjourn.
I got the front of the